So in this part of video, we are going to learn how to access, modify DOM elements and manipulate CSS using JavaScript. In this tutorial, you are going to learn how to access DOM elements using HTML JavaScript. We will explore how various methods like getElementById, getElementByClassName and querySelector, and demonstrate how to use them to target specific elements on your web page. Moving ahead, you will learn how we modify element content dynamically. In this, we will learn how to modify text, images or other HTML attributes and make them dynamic in nature. And we will also learn how to manipulate CSS with JavaScript. We will explore methods like classList, style and set attribute to customize the appearance of element on your web page. So we will start first with document.getElementById. So consider like first method we are here. So first method we are getting here is document.getElementById. Think of the ID as the fingerprint of your HTML elements, or imagine each element has a unique ID like a VIP pass, which means your ID cannot be repeated, cannot be duplicated. It needs to be unique on your whole web page. They are the unique identifiers that help us to pinpoint the specific element on web page. Let's just understand how do we. So on your screen you can see that one side I have opened my VS Code editor and another side there is a browser open. So basically in my VS Code for now I have taken two files. One is index.html and another one is accessingelement.js. Here we will be performing our all operations of selecting or accessing elements. Let's just start with ID. How do we select or access element using ID? So our first method is using ID. So first you need, so how do you access an element using any name, any method, whether it is ID or class name? First you need to declare a variable. For now I am just declaring it const testing with ID, and you have to give a equal sign, and now this is document, right? So see, there I can name it anything, const, let or where. I can use anything. For now I am using const, or you can use let also. It will give me the same result. You have to name this variable and you assign it to a document, and you perform every function. Rather than it is accessing element or modifying element, it is always and always performed on the document dot get element by ID. And here you have to give the ID name, right? Here you give the name which you have given in your HTML file. So here I have given an ID to h1, that is test. So you have to write here test, and after writing test, it is now selected, right? Now you have accessed the element. For proof, if you want to see that if it is selected or not, let's just do console.log testing with ID, and here I will open my console in my browser, and you can see that there I have the h1 ID is equal to test, and I am getting whole h1 tag with h1 tag and content both, right? You can get only text content also, but this is not the scope of this tutorial. We will see in the part where we will learn how to modify text content dynamically. For now you will be just seeing that how do we access using ID. Now next method is using class name. Okay, so how do you access element using class name, and what is the main purpose of using class name and ID, and how does class name differentiate from ID? So here you can see heading that using classes for multiple selections. So basically document.getElementByClassName is a method which allows you to find and collect all HTML elements with a specific class name on your web page. It is like mingling with a group of like-minded elements at a party. Use getElementByClassName to gather them together by their shared class and address them collectively. In simple word, when you have to work with more than one element at a time and you want to select it as a group, right? And basically when you use class name, it searches it scan all your HTML document and it gives you a group of classes. It gives you element with that class and you get the group, right? So it is generally used when you want a group, as I have written down there, and it is pretty useful when you want to work in group, right? So here in my VS Code, I will demonstrate you an example how do we access using class name. Let's just give classes to this li. I am giving them class li itself. I am naming the class li. I am giving another class li. And now what you have to do here, same process which you did with your id is basically let const testing with class name. Oh, I'm sorry, it is not working the way I wanted it to do. Yeah, now I am good. And now you have to do document dot get element by class name, and here again you have to give the same class which you have declared in your HTML document. So how you will do it, it is like li, right? And you will, when you do console.log, it will give me something new which I hope that you are not familiar with, which I am hoping. Now here is something which is, now see, in your console.log we are getting something known as HTML collection. So I told you that it gives you a HTML collection when you try to access element using class get class name, right? Basically if you remove this class, now you will get only one element, and it is rather HTML collection. It will be HTML collection even if it is 1 or 2, it will be printed in your console log as HTML collection. And if you give li there and you also give like li there, now you also get the same result. Your HTML collection will keep increasing, and it is an array. Basically it gives you array of all the elements matching that particular class. So yeah, so before proceeding to the next method, which is query selector, there is an important concept which you need to learn, and which is basically what is difference between node list and arrays. So guys, see, when we are using class name, right? When we are using class name for accessing elements, we were getting HTML collection, and that was an array. Now when you use query selector, you will get a node list. Or when I introduce you with the node list, with the query selector, you will see that I will use the term known as node list. So let's get first familiar with this, with that term, and then move on ahead. So basically node list are group of elements that you gather using methods like get element by class name or query selector. These are like crew of attendees at an event, each member connected to a specific purpose. So अभी तक तो हम class name में समझ रहे थे that they were the arrays, but they are not basically array. They were need to call node list. They are the node lists, and arrays are like your familiar allies, versatile and ready for action. These node lists are not that versatile, right? They can be converted into arrays, but if you try to do some array function directly onto it, like you are selecting or accessing element using class list, and you are trying to do some operations thinking by ye array hai, then it is not gonna work. It will work after you convert them into arrays, right? So arrays are like familiar allies, and arrays are most versatile data structure in your JavaScript, like objects. It gives you map, each, filter method, which offer dynamic manipulation and transformation of data. Also, you can convert node list into arrays, just like transforming your conference attendees into a fun party crew. One simple trick you just need to use array.from, so you can convert it into arrays. Let me show you a practical application of it. So on your screen you can see that we were selecting our elements using class name, and we were getting something like this. So here you can see that we were getting HTML collection, and it is something node list, right? So what you need now, let's just see there. It is an HTML collection. It has an object prototype also. इसके अपने पास अपने items हैं, and it was behaving like a node list. Now how to convert it into arrays? So so what you need to do here is simply array.from, and you have to pass the node list variable which you are trying to convert. So here I will go with testing with class name. Again, extension is working for me. I think it is tab9 extension which I am using right now. And when you do this, it is converted into array. And for showing you that it is really converted into this, I am using console.log, and now you can see there one thing important. Then when you using in your line number 11, you were just console logging the testing with class name, you were getting node list. But now in your line number 13, you are console logging the array collection and you are getting this array collection by far. So this is how it works. Now it is an array. You can perform many actions. You can do what? You can access it by using indexes, but in node list you cannot do this, right? So this is the basic difference in this, and you need to remember this, that what type of data structure do we get when we access element using class name or query selector. Now it's time to learn query selector. Now it's time to learn versatile query selector, and it is the one of the most versatile selection method which you can use, because using query selector, it is a method available on document object, and this method is super versatile. It allows you to select element using CSS like selector. You can select by tag name, class ID and more. What I meant by this, basically when you use query selector, you can select your elements or access your elements using CSS like syntax. What basically when you do CSS on your elements, HTML elements, what you can do, you can select, you can give them class, you can give them ID, or you can just directly select with them tag name. For example, if you have h1 on your page and it is only 1 or 2, you क्या करते थे आप, क्या h1 से ही आप select कर लेते थे, and you can style it, right? And if you have the option to give it class or ID, and you need not to explicitly use document.getElement by ID or by class name. You can simply use hashtag if you are using ID, or dot while using query selector. And this line basically means this is your Swiss Army knife of selection. Basically what does it mean? That it is multi-function, right? This is your Swiss Army knife. It speaks the language of CSS and help you find element based on tags or IDs. I will show you the practical implication which will make you more clear about this, that what I am trying to say there. But this is something which is really helpful. So it's time to learn query selector. Let me show you one by one example. I told you that you can select using like CSS like selectors by tag name, by class and by ID. Let's just start with our tag name. So सबसे पहले हम tag name दे रहे हैं यहाँ पे, and how do we use tag name? So as usual, declare a variable. I am saying testing with tag name, and you will give it document dot get dot not. अब आपको क्या करना है? You have to do what? You have to do query selector, and here we are using tag. Then just simply pass the tag. In our HTML file we have the h1 tag there. Now let's just pass this h1 without any hashtag or any dot or any other prefix, and just console log to see the result, whether we are able to select it or not. Console.log and do testing with tag name. I am commenting out these two console log because they will create unnecessary disturbance. Now when I console logging, see, I am getting it here itself. It is accessing element 21. You can see that we are getting it from line number 21. So that is how we can select using simply tag name. And now let's make it more attractive and more interesting by using class. So const testing with class name, and see what you can do, document dot query selector, and here you will pass a class, right? Now how will you pass a class, right? मैं यहाँ पे क्यों बोल देता हूँ बस क्योंकि it was contradicting with our above name. Now here document dot query selector. Now what you have to do, how do you select a class, how do you style element in your CSS? You use dot, and now here we have declared classes which is li. Let's just go with this li, and now to prove that we are able to select it like this also, let's just console log this, and we are commenting out this one also. Now see the versatility. We can use class name without explicitly using document.getElement by class name, and here you can see that it is testing with class name, and here I am getting list. But there is one more difference in class name and in query selector. Can you see it there? Let me just do again. Let me just uncomment this, and you can see there we will getting HTML collection, and there I am getting li. Only one thing. and this is the first element. See, there it is, the first li is accessing DOM elements, and here you are getting only the first element. Why it is happening? So please remember a very important point, that query selector only selects the first matching element, whether it is id, whether it is tag name, or whether it is class. It only selects the first matching element, first matching HTML element. Please make sure this, that you are getting only one element. For getting all the elements, you have to use another method, which is nothing but query selector all. Now it will behave like class name, and you will get node list and HTML collection. But there is again a difference. Here it is HTML collection and here it is node list. So this is not an array, it is a node list. So to convert it an array, you have to perform operation like this, which we discussed earlier. So this is the main difference. These are the two main difference. First, that query selector only gets the first element. To getting all the elements, all the matching elements to your selection, or the elements you want to access, you need to use query selector all. And if you want only the first matching element, sometimes condition has using that you only need first element, you can use the query selector, you will get the first element, matching element. For making you more comfortable with this and proving the point that it only selects the first matching HTML element, let me just clone this h1. I am cloning this and I am giving the same id, and I am just doing one modification there. I am only writing the welcome. Right now, see here an interesting thing. When we were using tag name, let's just do another console log, and now we are selecting h1, right? So according, we have two h1 on our HTML page, we should be getting these two h1. But as I told you that query selector only gives you the one first matching element, so you will get this like this, only the first. Welcome to the DOM tutorial for beginners. If you want the all h1 on your web page or all matching elements on your web page, you will use the all, and you will getting the node list here. So query selector gives you the node list, and class name gives you the HTML collection. Please make it clear. I am deleting it. Yes, so this is how node list work, and this is how node list is different from other selection methods, other accessing methods. But it is super versatile and it is super handy when you do real life projects. In this tutorial we will see some real life projects, and you will see that there are specific use cases where we use class name, where we use id, and where we mainly use query selector, right? So that was the query selector for you guys, and we have covered the three main important, basically it is 4 query selector all. We also covered the query selector all. So here we have covered the main accessing methods which are useful, and this is how you can access DOM elements, and these are the only method that you will be using in your practical life, and it is super handy.